Hey everybody, this is Marc Sims again, just asking a few questions. Just a few questions. I have Brian Mullins on the line. We are in Chicago, Illinois. Brian Mullins, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, Mark? Thank you for having me.
Hey Brian, you part of this group. Which the I lost it now. It was you're director of what? Because I see you on Facebook, man.
Sim,
I see you on
Sim,
Facebook. I see you on Channel 11. I'm like, what does Brian actually do?
well, I wear multiple hats, man. I am the director, a political director of Citizens for Civic Education. It is a group we started about 3 years ago in order to educate the black electorate on issues reflecting our community.
Yeah, but you consider you an organizer or like you said, political director. You're more of an organizer or more of an information czar or minister. What do you say? What do you do?
Well, I wear multiple hats. All right. So, first, that there is no source of data that talks about black people and pushes issues and explains issues related to black communities. So, first, we got to come up with what the message is and what the data shows. And then we have to go and organize the individuals, the people inside of these communities, inside of Chicago and Illinois, and the state of Illinois, to go to the polls, right? To engage in these issues in various means of action. So, again, I wear multiple hats, man. So it's a challenge, but
But
it's
Brian
interesting.
Mullins, Brian Mullins, how do you engage and educate the masses who really don't give a damn about a lot of things?
Well, we know in this age, so the most effective way by far to engage people is door to door advocacy, knocking on the door, talking to a person, recording their results, coming back and engaging that person again. But in this age of social media, it's starting to change a little bit. When you talk about political campaigns in politics, they spend most of their money on television, right? Because the people that are spending the money believe TV reaches the widest audience. We know that the reality of that is it's changing, right? So social media and digital engagement is cheaper and more effective to people. Everybody walks around with a phone. You're sitting at your computer. You're sitting at your tablet. So what we're doing is blending all these together. I'm not a big fan of television, a little on radio, but those are dying, mediums for communication. So like you have here, you have podcasts, video shows, short clips and push through social media is becoming the most effective way, but we don't have enough data to prove that it is. But by far, door-to-door advocacy, one-on-one touching and talking to person moves people. So we're trying to combine all these together.
I'm about to say you have to. You can't give up the physical touch and talking to people one on one, face to face, belly to belly. But you do have to use this social media. But how do you
Correct.
educate the masses? It's just like don't have to talk about the teacher strike. Right now we're going through the
Sure.
teacher strike here in Chicago. But a
Sure.
lot of folks don't
Okay.
have that historical knowledge of
Sure.
teachers unions and blah 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 to really make a smart decision or a smart opinion about anything. So how do we do that? How do we bring people up to speed?
Well, unfortunately, I'm using unfortunate, since people's time span is short, attention span is pretty short now. We seem to be moved by more messiness and more soundbite things, right? So, I use a lot of tools. Give you an example. I talk about, let's say, immigration, right? So if I talk about immigration, or I talk about, you said don't talk about the schools, but if I talk about why black kids are being hurt within the schools in quick sound bites, that gets people more riled up and engaged than me trying to explain history of education to them, right? Because they're not trying to hear all that, but I'm trying to get them angry at racial things or things. We got to find triggers to get people to move. We watch the black community move because of chicken sandwiches, right? And so we have to be smarter on, leave the door open for those that want to be educated in a deep experience way, historical context, and how did we get here. But the reality is we need to move people, right? We watched the election, the mayoral election, where Chance the Rapper and Kanye West got involved with Amari Inya, right? Now, it didn't work the way they anticipated, and we could talk about that at another time if you like.
Amara
But
Inya was
the
running for mayor of
concept was
Chicago.
right. Yeah,
Amara Inya was running for mayor of Chicago. Yeah,
correct.
back in the
So we
day.
saw Chance the Rapper and them come in, and it was a great concept. I think they did it incorrectly to get that, but the logic was quick. Let's get Chance to bring young people out, right? He just didn't follow through. He went to go find Jesus at some point and left them marred by
Well,
herself. But
and Kanye's
that's up
having
to you.
church, because it's a
Exactly.
long haul process. It's not a quick hit.
Correct.
No, but I
Correct.
am waiting for the chicken sandwiches to come back. You know that.
And they
I
are
don't
good now.
I don't know
Let's
about
be clear.
you, but you right. Trivia stuff gets people to under how to get them engaged. So, like right now, we
Correct.
talk about the teacher strike, but I want people to
Right.
talk about education, teaching and
Correct.
learning. I mean,
Correct.
most of the people, and we could talk about not about the strike, about education,
Sure.
because
Okay.
most of the children in Chicago public schools are not going to get a 4-year college degree, and they're gonna have
Correct.
to compete with this artificial intelligence.
Correct.
What are we doing here?
Correct. Well, and that's one of my biggest problems against this strike here. Nobody's addressing the wholesale changes that we need in the way our children learn. And our children learn in Chicago, right? We are still, when this strike is over, the children are going to be no better off than they were before the strike, right? We have our kids in Chicago, they started out with selective enrollment schools. So selective enrollment, to who's not aware of it, you take the smartest kids, the best and the brightest kids out of the neighborhood schools, place them in their own school, inundate that school with resources, and then we turn around and say to the other kids, hey, you should be like them, right? With no resources, no other kids there to push them, or anything like that.
That
So
worked
I
for
believe we need,
I'm sorry, cutting you off, but that worked for Michelle Robinson's family, right? Michelle
yeah.
Obama. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Keep
exactly.
going.
So they
Keep
say,
going.
right?
Not to say anything
they
bad
say,
about her.
right?
It was a good plan for their family. Keep going. Yeah.
She went to Boucher, which is I live in South Shore, it's right down the street from me. So she went to Boucher
But
Academy.
it
Right
was
now, so
Bryn Mawr
her,
back. It was Bryn Mawr back then, wasn't it?
Bryn Mawr, correct?
Yeah, back
Yep,
then.
it was Bryn Mawr back then.
Yeah.
So, but when you look at that, the majority of black schools in Chicago are underutilized and underfunded. They don't have, they don't have laptops. Kids still don't even have up-to-date books, which sounds crazy in 2019. So I believe it's systemic. So when you look at the teachers union and they come in and they're fighting for, let's give an example of librarians, right? And librarians back, I'm 50 years old, and we go to the library, we can ask her a question, help her research paper, and she would give you those little numbers, and you go pull them a book and you read a book and all that. Well, my son now just asks Google the exact same answer, and he gets it all on his laptop, on his phone, right? And so I think one of the things that we are behind in education, right? We don't have the tools. So you ask me, spend the money instead of on these librarians and these teacher raises. Make sure that every child has a laptop and has access to the internet, right? To your point, automation and robotics and technology is going to lead the future. We know that service jobs are going by the wayside and over the next few years. Why are we not teaching children to be ready for that workforce environment down the line? And I'll agree with you. I think that's one of the problems. We don't talk about education as a whole. We talk about it in sound bites, right? You still have, kids graduating high school, they're reading at a 7th grade level. Like, who does that? Why are you doing that? Now, we also have the next issue of in Chicago immigration, right? So what's happening is they are fighting for sanctuary schools and resources into Hispanic communities that's empowering their children. And our children are not even included in the conversation. Stacey Davis Gates, the vice president of Chicago Teachers Union, said on television last night, on her little spiel she was giving, talking about how CPS is not providing individual education plans for immigrants, right? For immigrant children, leaving them out of the loop of education. And I'm looking at it, I'm going to throw something at the TV like, what about the 134,000 black kids that don't have that same access? And we're talking about, kids that are not even citizens here. And I think all these conversations come to you got to look at it, in my opinion, in a holistic view. In Chicago, black population is leaving the city. We're being pushed out by various reasons. They're replacing our population with another group of people. They're giving that group of people more access for their children to education, educational tools to allow their children to thrive. I mean, I didn't even know that if you are an ESL student, so when you hear them on TV right now in the strike and they talk about special education, I wasn't aware until recently in this education conversation that ESL, English as a second language students, so basically kids that can't speak English, are included in special education. So when they talk about special education, you sit back in your brain and saying, oh, they have some kind of, mental capacity issues or something else going on with the child. The majority of the kids they're talking about are kids that don't speak English. but they make it seem so. It's a lot of propaganda going on. Our communities need to engage in education. We also use the teachers, and they're one of my, biggest. I'm one of the biggest critics.
Oh, okay, stop right there. Stop right there with the critics.
Okay.
Stop
Sure.
right there. Let
Sure.
me. This is getting so good. I got to stop and do part 2, Brian Mullins. Okay,
Sure.
let me just stop right here, and then let me set up
Yeah.
part 2. Stand by.